Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the today's date, March 2nd work session of the Salisbury City Council. We have a short agenda today, and first up is 617 West Isabella Street property donation. Mr. Kitzrow? Want to come up? Mr. Howard, how are you?
So I'm gonna let you take the lead.
Okay. So, approximately 2 years ago, a donation of the property at 617 West Isabella was initiated. Apparently, there were some issues with title and stuff. The property is actually an oddly shaped, it's a triangular lot right at the corner of Isabella and Delaware Avenue, which is part of the block where our field operations is. It's probably not, the most useful piece of the block for the field operations unit or division there, but it is a part of that block, and it was actually previously owned by Gertrude Shockley, family of, who was the first
Black
Black
Council.
councilwoman for the city of Salisbury. They would like to donate the property. It is not a buildable lot, but it would make probably a very nice spot for a memorial or a little garden or anything of that nature. But I think where it's situated, it's a very nice acquisition for the city.
Okay.
And you've got some additional.
Yes, I agree. I spoke to some of the former councilwomen, and actually Delegate Speaker Pro Temp Cherie Sample Hughes, and we would love for it to be a memorial garden simply because she's the first African-American to sit on city council. And second of all, it would be historical in our community. We need to have history in our community, and we have very little history in our community. And I would like for our children and our families to know who these important people are. They're very valuable to our community and to our city. So I would appreciate if that would be what would happen with this piece of property.
Okay, we have all the information in the resolution in the packet. Does anybody have any issues or comments or questions?
Are we
Okay.
designating that today as the memorial?
No, we first will do, correct.
Come and
And
connect
then we'll
the
talk, that'll
donation.
go on another
Okay,
recommendation maybe from the mayor in his office,
okay.
whatever. Okay. Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know what? Oh, my God.
Next up, Mrs. Lloyd, how are you? Great to
Great.
see you.
It's good to see you all too.
We are doing chapter 4 today,
Chapter 4 of the Employee Handbook,
okay?
and
Floor is yours.
we've identified a few benefits that we put in place that were not added in this listing. One of which is the house keys for employees, which is a very great plan that the city has. We set aside a certain amount of money in the budget to assist any of our full-time employees, part-time employees, our volunteers. If they are buying a home inside the city limits, they can apply for this grant. And when they go to settlement, this grant is applied towards their closing costs. Last year, we actually gave away all 3 of the grants. We have 2 already done this year,
Great.
and we still, have a ways to go between now and June 30th. We're hoping to get another one. I've talked to a couple of employees when we've done our DVD training, because they asked some questions in one of the classes, so I think we might get another one there. So that's good. I'm glad
Good.
that budget money will be, used. But it had never been listed in the list of benefits in this chapter, and we wanted to make sure it had a proper place there.
Gotcha.
We didn't put a dollar amount in simply because that could change. We could decide at some point in the future to raise that amount towards the closing cost.
What's the amount now?
It's 2,500,
That's nice.
yeah.
That's really, that's a nice chunk.
Yeah, and, that definitely helps our tax base by, bringing the individuals into the city limits. And especially if they're working for us or doing some service, as a volunteer, it really gives them a greater sense of pride, I think, to own a house in the city limits. So this is just one way of helping them.
Is there there's no designation about just first house? If they wanted to move from the outside from
Correct,
outside
they
the
may
city,
do that.
so they could do that.
Right. They have to be qualified for certain types of loans,
Okay,
like Maryland Bond, CDA, I think
Gotcha.
it's FHA, and some others. And this is just one piece of the Maryland Mortgage Program. So they could qualify for a like amount with the Maryland Mortgage Program so that they could end up with $5,000 as their closing costs.
Okay.
good.
And if they're in the CDA programs, those are 30-year loans. So that means that if someone else was able to come up with the closing costs for them, they'd get 100% of the loan, and it would be there for 30 years. And our part, if they were to refinance to get a lower interest rate at some point in time, lower it from 30 years to 20 years, our part would not have to be repaid to
Okay,
us.
gotcha.
Now, the state's part would, they would prorate that
Based on
$2,500.
Gotcha.
So it's a good way, a segue for them to get in and have home ownership. One of the other benefits we had already put in place, and that was the paid parental leave for maternity and paternity leave for individuals who have been here with us for at least 1 year. And that particular program qualifies under family medical leave. And we wanted to make sure that it had a proper place in the list of benefits as well, because we're one of the very few government agencies, and especially on the Lower Eastern Shore, that have this in place. So we're a leader in that benefit area. We also went through and changed some of the structure of how the paragraphs were lined up, made some other corrections, and that's basically it. We really didn't, do
Yeah,
a big switch out. We did make some changes, like on the ICMARC. That was the company that we formerly had our 457 with. And after an RFP process, we selected Empower, and our program goes live this Thursday afternoon. So it's been over a year in the making. And so we didn't put Empower's name in either because, somewhere down the line, another company could be selected if we do another RFP and find that we could drop the administrative fees down for those who are participating in that tax-deferred program. And one of the other things that we took out was on the FSA medical and dependent, that flexible spending account that is tax deferred, we took the amounts out of that also because that has a tendency to change. So we just took those things out that would require us to keep going back and making changes when they really weren't necessary. So that's pretty much it.
so on the flexible spending, for instance, there'd be if it was going to change, they would be notified, because in here,
Yes.
or you're not gonna, so there's gonna be no dollar number.
No dollar number.
Okay,
Now, because during their orientation program, we identify that as a benefit for them. And on the quarter mark that they're hired in, we actually bring in American Fidelity.
oh, and they do it directly.
They do an entire presentation for them, show them how it affects their taxes. It used to be you could go through and itemize certain things. This helps you to not have to itemize at the end. It's just all taken care of right up front. So we think it's a great program. And we were able to go with American Fidelity from our former group that we had used, Task, and because they dropped the entire fee that they were charging us annually on that. So
Good.
it was a mere $1,200, but $1,200,
We'll take
it all
$1,200.
adds up. Yeah.
Any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Okay. Mark, did you look at them by any
Yes.
chance?
Oh, yeah.
You okay?
Yep.
Great
Okay.
job.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Y'all have a good evening.
Same to you.
Next up, Corey Cameron for a budget amendment for Paleo water treatment plant bathroom remodel.
Okay. So we're actually building a bathroom. It's in the FY19 CIP out at Paleo. The plant was built in 1976 and had one single bathroom for one operator. And now we have 5 to 8 people there during the day and no shower other than the cold chemical showers. So we're building 2 bathrooms, one with the full shower for the operators. We've been caught out there before where we've had to stay multiple days for storms and stuff like that. So we're in the process of it, it's already going on, and then the contractor, and no one caught this before, just realized that the shower won't fit through the door of the plant. So, so they've got to rip the door out and some blocks around the door,
And
and then they're
replace it.
going to replace it with a larger door. It's going to be ADA compliant, so
Oh,
we have a
good.
lot of tours through the plant, so that'll be good. So that's basically what this change order is about. There's a couple other things where we caught afterwards that they didn't have the moisture resistant board in there, and we made the little stronger with the studs. Our maintenance man caught that. So the money's available from an old purchase order that we did for a water model, which we finished in 2016. So we've got $13,000 sitting in that account, and I need $9,872 to switch over from that project fund.
Questions or excuse me, questions or comments? No, I think we should have something that works as well as the plant does. If we could get a few more points off the nitrogen, we'd be better.
There you go. Well, that's on the other side.
I
We'll
know,
work on
I
it.
know. Okay, we're good to go then. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you.
Corey.
Thank you.
God,
You okay? Lawson's or,
do you have one, son?
no? Linda does. Oh, she does.
Please.
Oh, there you go. Next up, we have a donation of drinking fountain. Mr. Stevenson? No?
We got Ben Baker for you.
Oh, Ben's here.
Yep.
Ben's here. He's the new Tom Stevenson
For tonight.
for tonight.
Hot seat, you're already out.
Come on up. Come on up, Ben. How are you?
Well, moving right along, I think Tom was going to join us, but since we're ahead of schedule, Ben's going to.
So we have a donation for the drinking fountain. We've got it in our, let me get to it.
You want to see this, Ben? Do you want to see the-
Just tell him about the background of the donation that we're getting
Yeah,
for the
just
fountain for the zoo.
Yeah, it was a donation from someone on the zoo commission. And I think they kind of I think it says that they wanted to designate it
Right,
to the water
purpose.
fountain, which
Yep.
we've gone and purchased for $5,000 and some odd dollars.
Mr. Stevenson?
Sorry, you're way ahead of schedule.
Donate.
No, you're
You
covering
said
everything.
something? You
They
said-
donated the funds
Guys,
for a
pull the
fountain to
mic
be
closer.
You have to
purchased.
put the,
Hey, Ben.
pull the mic.
They're having
Do you
trouble
know the
here.
name
Talking
of
to
the
him.
person who donated it?
Yes. Kathy, it was the estate of Kathy Yowell. And it was designated for a Halsey Taylor Outdoor Hydro Boost bottle filling station. So it's not a, oh, there it
It's
is.
not a normal, yeah, it's a really nice.
Wow. That's really nice.
It's nice enough to
And
go
this
over a
is
new
replacing one by
$5,000
the,
threshold.
By the old fountain, by the gift shop, right?
Yes.
Nice, very nice. And it's gonna go
By the education building.
by the
And
education.
estate.
I could drink from that.
And the
Per the
estate,
estate.
for the estate,
So she's passed.
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, okay, because I was ready to send a thank you, but. No, I
You
think,
can send
her
this
so
letter.
the-
I send thank yous to people. I think this is fantastic.
So the money from the estate was given to the Zoo Commission. Zoo Commission purchased the fountain, and this request is to accept the fountain from the Zoo Commission.
Gotcha. And the amount is $5,536.
Yes, sir.
It's even got the bottle filling station. That's good.
This is really nice.
It is nice.
It is.
I didn't even know they made them.
And this
Any-
one,
Any questions or comments?
No, we appreciate it.
It's fantastic. I'm sure that the little ones and the elder ones will enjoy this. Because everybody's carrying a water bottle nowadays. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
No.
We're good to go.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, do you have anything?
I think it's appropriate to provide an update on something that we've discussed multiple times here over the last few months. The Salisbury Board of License Commissioners discussion and legislation that was ultimately provided in a recommendation or a request, a legislative request, to our delegate Anderton, who then filed the bill. It has been amended several times to include Speaker Pro Tem Cherie Sample Hughes as a co-sponsor of the legislation, and recently received a letter of support from the county and the city to accept an amendment, which we believed was critical for passage of anything at this time, but was a major shift from what was originally proposed. And the legislation as written now, or as amended, would take the current board, expand it to 5 members, require that 3 of those members be residents of the city of Salisbury, and I believe neither of the 2 current members are residents of the city of Salisbury, and then would require that the mayor and the county executive agree to the appointment of those 3. So it would work a lot like the planning commission, where we have to concur on the person who gets the chair of the planning commission. This would be 3 people instead of 1, but it would work similarly to that appointment, which is basically usually just at least in my limited experience, it's been just a conversation between the county executive and I about, will you accept this guy? Sure, yeah, and it's the same person who's been there a couple terms now, so it's really just a signing off. So going through the process anew might be more challenging, finding people that are willing to serve and want to do that work, and I think there's other questions as to would state law persist the way it does today, that those are paid positions, I assume so, but I don't know at this point. The amendment is pretty narrow, makes it a pretty narrow change, but I think would address the fundamental concern that, do we have a voice? Are we being listened to? And are our best interests being served? I think collectively did not feel that was the case. And I think we can all appreciate that at least we have the opportunity now to have a solution that works for everybody. We'll see, and time will tell if that proves true. And we've also made it clear to at least part of our delegation that if it doesn't, and actually this message came from them, not toward them, if it doesn't, we'll reconsider. Let's amend it again if we need to.
Would it help if the council wrote a letter of support? Or
I don't think at this point in time, but I think it might by the time it gets to the floor. It's still got to get through subcommittee once, and I think it would have gotten through subcommittee and probably committee and maybe through the House unamended, but it was unlikely to get through the Senate. So, I think the key will also be, and this is where some action might be important, is for us to call the members of the delegation, especially our two senators, and especially the other members of the Senate Alcohol Subcommittee, the Senate Alcoholic Beverages Subcommittee.
And those are listed on the site?
They're on,
site.
yeah, they're on the Maryland
They're on
Ledge
so
site, the
you wanna
MDA
make a
Ledge.
call. I encourage everybody to make a call.
I have a question. I've had a lot of time to read in the last 2 weeks, and I did read basically a summation of what you said about the bill. I had a couple thoughts about that. One, it would be interesting to see how that really worked going forward, considering the debacle which got us to the place in the first place. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, what the benefit is.
I also saw a financial benefit to the city of having our licensure. So this would not give us, the county would still hold the benefits of the permitting and the distribution of.
And the expenses, and there are no benefits right now. There are only, it only costs you money to do this. You don't gain any money. So it's a losing proposition. So we would have lost money if we had taken this on.
So we have more say, though, of stuff for permitting and even with this language.
Right. Well, and
We have
and
three
really,
votes
and
out of the
really,
five.
what I'd say is the city of the community of Salisbury does, because really elected officials are supposed to stay out of this board. It's a governor-appointed board. So all we're doing is agreeing on the recommendation to the governor, and it's a state entity. It's not even mentioned in county law. It's not a county entity. The county simply stepped in and was influencing it, and I think inappropriately so. So, we wouldn't influence, and we shouldn't influence after our role in influencing it is selecting or agreeing to the person who's going to be recommended to the governor. So it's a better level of influence than we have today. Imperfect still.
Okay.
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 Mr. Mayor.
I wish it was better, but I think even our own permitting board wouldn't be perfect. I mean, it's
Yeah.
an improvement upon a
This-
process.
The current board does not have like a partisan requirement, right?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. If there's no other business, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.